You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. My name is Daudi Mugabi and joining me today is Jonathan. Jonathan, can you just share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do?
No, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be on your podcast and to spend some time with your listeners. So I'm kind of a long-time business gaming tech guy. Started off on the phone supporting Microsoft, 95, if that ages me a little bit. But been servicing customers, the last 25 years in a multitude of different, arenas, whether it's Microsoft, Autodesk, Symantec, Postmates, gaming, Kabam, Xbox, lots of different places. And so my focus has always been about three main things. It's to build, to scale, and to learn. And then how do you bring 10x value to customers? And so I'm just excited here to talk a little bit more about that.
All right. Now, I do have a few questions about offering support to gamers, basically. Would that be the clients of the console or the clients of the games being played? For instance, if I'm playing World of Warcraft, would I call you the console or PC person, or does Warcraft have a call center, for lack of a better word? How does it work?
Yeah, normally the way it works is, so you'll have the publishers who are responsible for providing support. And in some cases, the publisher and the studio, or the dev studio, are the same. Sometimes they're a little different because you have dev shops that create games and then other companies publish them. But the publisher provides support. And so then the publisher will then either do that support internally with their own team, or they'll outsource that support externally to an outsourcer or a business BPO, business process outsourcer. And there's a number of them inside the gaming space. And so in my past lives and past companies that I've done, like Officium Labs and other ones, where I've had good exits, we provided those services and then helped monetize VIPs inside of those games to drive greater value for the VIP as well as the game company. And my current company, we focus more on the products that can help empower and enable those resources, whether they're internal or external.
Right. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about today, is your current company and how you're helping handle the customer experience. So just for anyone who is listening to this that maybe isn't a gamer, they're new to this, and they're trying to appreciate our conversation, what are some of the customer challenges or queries that you would handle in the gaming world? And how does your company add value in terms of enhancing their overall experience?
I think the biggest challenge from a player perspective is it's very difficult for gaming companies who have millions and millions of players to make me feel like a player, that they're personalizing that experience for me. Like they're focused on me, they care about me. Because of the amount of money it takes to support, say, 1 million DAU, daily active users of a game, they tend to, create, either snippets where they give broad brush answers. They do broad brush incentives and offerings for the players, or they just provide support, but it takes a very long time because of the amount of people it takes to manually respond. And so what I've noticed, in my last 25 years is that players, they just want to get back to playing the game. They're not reaching out to you because they're just doing it for fun. They want help, and then they want to get back to the game. And they want to feel like you care about them. And so what Quimbi does, the current company that I own and have founded, is it creates hyper-personalization at scale through AI. So it helps every player feel like anytime they engage with a brand, that it looks like that the player is like being handled personally by the agent. When in fact, on the back end, the AI is bringing all the data together to help drive a hyper-personalized experience. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, because you have that hyper-personalization and scale, then the offerings and the incentives and the rewards that you can give the player will be bespoke to that particular player. So the engine on the back end does all of the work, but that player, again, will feel like, oh, this is exactly what I needed to get to that next level in the game. And then the third thing is now, instead of having a 24-hour response time, you can get a 2-minute response time. And again, that helps players get back to playing to the game. And so those are some of the key challenges from a player's perspective. Is you're playing this game because you ostensibly love it. You're spending lots of time on it because you love the brand, and you don't want to get stuck. You want to get back to playing the game. So that's what we're trying to solve for brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And the moment you mentioned AI, what came to my mind was the data that it's being fed in order to respond to the queries that it gets. So my question then would be, how are you collecting all this data? Because there's so many consoles, there's so many games. Do you have, how do you handle that? I guess is the question. There is so much information out there that is tailored depending on the platform and the game.
Yeah, totally. So our secret sauce is that we've created an engagement layer, the one-stop dashboard and interface for the agent, where it sits on top. It's like the brains that sit on top of the game database, the CRM, FAQ, Jira, GitHub, bug system. It sits on top of all of that, as well as external sources. It brings all of that together. It hyper-personalizes it, and then gives that response for the agent to review and then respond to the customer. And so because we have that one-stop shop, an agent, instead of having to go to 5 or 6 different places to get this information, now they just go to this one location, and AI does 95% of the work. And then the agent actually gets to be an architect of that experience rather than just a support person. And I think that's what changes the game in the future of AI and services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just wondering, who exactly is the user of Quimbi? Is it the provider of the game, or is it the user that plays the game?
Yeah, it's the publisher. So the one earlier when I mentioned the publisher provides support. So it's a B2B product. The publisher will integrate our agnostic tech stack into their tech stack, build the engagement layer, and then the publishers, whether it's outsourced agents or in-sourced agents, will leverage it and that engagement with the consumer or the gamer. And then the gamer gets the benefit of it because it's hyper-personalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to video games, I've noticed that reviews can make or break you. If you have a version of a game that is ideally meant to be an upgrade on the previous version, but because of bugs, because of some of the reasons that you've said, the customer experience, that can make or break a very expensive game that a company is trying to make. So I'm curious, for those who are not initiated, in the world of gaming, how does feedback, how is that done in terms of, because with normal services, what would happen is you're given a survey and you can rate the game. In the gaming world, how is this done? And I guess I'm trying to frame this question in such a way that, how does your solution help with the ratings, and how are the ratings done?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to your question. So the first part is, how is feedback and ratings done in gaming? So usually any platform that hosts a game, like Apple, Google, Steam, Unity, those different platforms, or they have a mechanism where consumers can rate the game, right? And so Apple, as an example, is if you don't have a rating of 4.3 or higher out of 5, then you can't actually be sponsored on any of the Apple platforms because they view your game as a lower quality game that they don't want to put their brand behind, right? And so it's really important, especially in the mobile space, that you attain a rating of 4.3 or higher, so that you have the better opportunity to grow your fan base, grow your player base, and so forth. I think it's the difference between being 4.4 and 4.2 is about a 40% difference in revenue. So making sure that you deliver high quality, high fidelity, listen to feedback, make changes, improve your game, and have players, rate the game high is super important. So I think that's one key component, which is how is it rated. Now, the second component is, how do you moderate feedback? And so in the past, what happened is, you get these thousands and thousands of reviews, and you'd only focus maybe on the 1 stars, right? To figure out how to clean up the 1 stars. But now with AI, what we have the ability to do is ingest all of the reviews into an AI system. The AI can pre-write all of the responses, and then you just have a human go through and make sure that the response is on brand, makes sense, and then you can engage 10x more of the ratings You can ask people, change their rating if they feel like their issue is resolved, and all these different things. So you can manage the rating system based off of how you engage and how you try to help customers with their challenges or their frustrations. And so because you can now do 10x with Quimbi and AI, it allows you to elevate your ratings in the example of the Apple App Store from 4.2 to 4.4, increase your revenue by 30 to 40%, and then get sponsored by Apple. So it makes a huge difference in the eyeball game in the mobile space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm assuming that all those that have used Quimbi are definitely seeing a change in terms of their feedback, and of course an increase in the number of downloads for their game. Based on, because I personally, it doesn't have to be a game. If it's an app, I look at the rating. That's the number one indicator of whether or not I should download this. And so if Quimbi is helping these publishers to enhance and increase the feedback and value of their games, then definitely that has an implication on the bottom line. So yeah, that's a very, very good one. So what was some of the challenges in building Quimbi? What was some of those, what can I call them? Some of the hurdles that you didn't foresee that you then realized, we hadn't, considered that, and it was a learning lesson for you. Just peel the curtain and just let us in on a little bit of that.
I think there's three things. I think the first one was helping game studios understand the impact of Quimbi and how it could, number one, it could 6x the productivity of any of their employees in the game studio. It would save 30 to 40% costs, but even more powerfully, it can grow their revenue by 10 to 15% and grow their retention. So that's the first part, was helping game studios kind of understand that mindset. Because the old mindset is, hey, let's spend as little as we can on service and focus all of our money on dev and design. Well, the new mindset is, hey, we spent the money to acquire these customers. Let's figure out how to actually support these customers in a hyper-personalized way that keeps them coming back. So that was the first thing. And some game studios are like, yep, let's do it. Let's go. Makes sense. Other game studios takes a little bit more time because it's a new way of thinking. I think the second one was then building the tech stack in an agnostic way. So rather than focus on certain LLMs or certain CRMs, we learned that, hey, we need to make it plug and play, and it needs to be able to plug and play into anything. So then the customer doesn't have to worry about, am I on this tech stack? Am I on that tech stack? It's just plug and play, easy to use, almost as easy to use as a fifth grader, right? So that was the second thing that we learned. In the original renditions is a little bit more complex. And then I think the third one was really focusing on which clients or publishers would get the biggest bang for the buck so that we could help them get that advantage. So we had a broad brush of clients and customers, and we've kind of narrowed it down to the ones that we can really feel like we can make that bang for the buck and help them be successful and get those value points of productivity, cost savings, and LTV or revenue growth. So those are the kind of the three key learnings that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when I think of Quimbi, what I'm visualizing is somebody interacting with it when they have a challenge with the game. Is there an opportunity for them to interact with it to enhance the experience of the game? For instance, asking at a certain level, what am I supposed to find at this level? Am I supposed to find a key or a sword or something like that? Basically, if it's embedded within the game and it's enhancing your experience within the game as opposed to solving problems affecting your gameplay. Is that something that you guys are looking at, or is it something that's already happening?
Well, I feel like you're in my product meetings. So because we're talking about these same exact things, which is what's phase 2 look like. So phase 1 is all about hyper-personalization on the back end, right? Phase 2 is then how do you then take that same technology and build a companion for that player so then the player can just ask questions, figure this out, do this, and create it in a way that can engage with the player directly, which then drives even further retention and so forth. So it's definitely part of our roadmap. It's one that's a little bit more challenging to implement, and so we're doing the back end one first to deliver the immediate value, but that's definitely on the roadmap.
Okay, wonderful. And what has been your favorite or standout moment on this journey building Quimbi? Something that you guys have achieved or something you've seen and witnessed that has stuck with you?
Well, I think for me, so the previous company I owned, Officium Labs, I started in 2019, and it essentially is the services version of Quimbi. And we founded that company. We help companies really drive revenue, cost savings, but it was all service based. And, we had a 20x return when we exited in 2021, which is fantastic. And so what I think has been super fun is taking all of the learnings from Officium and productizing it. So then it's not a service, it's a product. And then that product can then be leveraged and integrated by any client anywhere in the world. And then having a really top drawer team to help deliver that. Those have been some fun and engaging moments for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier on, you mentioned how you've been working with Microsoft. You mentioned that in 1995. So you strike me as someone who's been on the back end most of the time. I'm just curious, are you actually a gamer? Have you been on the front end experiencing these challenges that you're solving from that point of view? Or has most of your experience been on the back end?
No, I mean, to my own chagrin, probably. I open up Steam, which is one of the platforms I game on, and it tells me every time I open it up how many hours I've spent on a game. And it's always so kind to do that. And I open it up, I'm like, have I really spent that many hours? So at Civilization, I think the last time I looked at Civilization 5 was one of the games that I really enjoyed. And I spent like 3,000 hours in a year on it. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can get those hours back. But so I'm a hardcore gamer. Like I have a son now, so he's 4, so I don't play as much. But like all throughout my life, I've been a hardcore gamer. So I have autism, and gaming is like a place for me to like make sense of things, to think and strategize, and it helps kind of give me mental clarity and kind of focus. And so I've been a hardcore gamer, since I was 7 or 8.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, because finding solutions to some of these problems can only come if you yourself are a gamer and you appreciate what the pain points are from the gamer's point of view. So yeah, that's good to know. Well, yeah. Well, Jonathan, I can't thank you enough for joining me today on the Business Mike podcast. And for anyone that wants to learn more about Quimbi or any games that are using Quimbi, how can they find you online? How can they connect with you? If there are any publishers out there who are looking for solutions, where can they find you on the internet?
So you can obviously reach me on LinkedIn, Jonathan Shroyer. I'm one of the only Jonathan Shroyers there. Quimbi is QUIMBI.ai, so Quimbi.ai is our website. You can test drive our demo. You can look at our intelligence center. And then my email is jonathan@Quimbi.ai. So reach out to me in any of those places. And even if you aren't looking for services, I love to talk about the industry. I love to talk about strategy and trends. So feel free to reach out to me.
All right. And before I let you go, I can't do that without asking you, it might not be your favorite game, but what's the best game ever made, in your opinion?
Best game ever made, in my opinion. So there was a game, and it was the best game in its time. It was 88, 89. It's called Hardball. It was a simulation baseball game. And it allowed me, as I was quite young then, so 11 years old, it allowed me to create my entire roster and then simulate my roster against all the other Major League Baseball teams, and then analyze and understand data in such a way so that I can figure out how to become, the Major League Baseball championship. And so for me, as an 11-year-old, to take that treasure trove of data, and it's almost like the first use of AI as simulation. That was like one of my favorite games.
All right. I'll definitely check that out. I haven't heard of it before, so I'll look that up. Oh, Jonathan, thank you so much once again. And we look forward to engaging you again in the future when you've made some developments with Quimbi, and we'll definitely be on the lookout for any and all of your activities online. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.